Well, it's 4:05 on the 9th of November. Let's get this meeting up and rolling. Let's start off with approval of the meeting minutes and the payroll and manifest, please.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of October 25th.
I'd second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll.
Aye.
I make a motion we accept payroll and manifests as presented.
I'd second that.
All those in favor on payroll and manifest?
Aye.
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 Okay. New business, 2023 budget work session, first draft.
In front of you is a spreadsheet with the water operations and a printout from MTS, and then the same for sewer.
Right.
The difference being that in the MTS worksheets, you get some history, you get, what 50% of wages, you get some detail that helps to clarify some things, but the numbers would be the same. And so Jason and I have worked pretty hard to try to really drill into a lot of these numbers. We found a few things that we thought maybe had been over budgeted a bit in the past couple of years. We've adjusted the payroll down from where we were leaving it with the other folks that were here a few years ago. And we've come in pretty good. I think we're pretty close. We got some input from Dawn. We backed a few things back up a little bit because we were a little bit too tight on some things like legal, the audit. We may anticipate additional single audits with the projects closing out hopefully soon. So we put some of those back up a little bit where we were a little bit too conservative.
Well, I really like the notes. That's great for
this
those
is
of us who have
really
to
helpful.
digest. Yeah. So thumbs up to MTS for their report. Always helps to have detail.
So this is what you end up putting into the system and then it prints out.
Correct. So
Nice.
I'm entering it into the MTS.
Right.
It's fairly easy. It's a nice little module where it actually shows you a graph of what you did last year,
Oh, nice.
what was budgeted, how much you spent to date. So, there's
Right,
another
right.
month and a half to go or so. So you gotta kind of gauge that, and then, where you think you want to be for 2023. And at the end, you can print out this summary. So it's really-
And
It's
boy,
very
we
easy to
definitely
use.
tightened up the accounting because I remember this being pages and pages and now it's 2 pages.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
sweet.
Right. Many.
I know, right?
Right.
My only question is the new person. We have the new person?
He is starting December
Number
6th.
6th.
Right,
Okay.
So,
right.
no.
reflected in here.
It is.
It
Yeah,
is.
that's
it
what I
is
wanted to
in
make
here.
sure.
Yeah.
Dawn, I think your phone alarm is going off. It keeps singing.
On what?
Could be my phone.
Oh, your phone on Dawn's desk. Somebody's alarm keeps singing.
My hearing's gone, brother. I didn't think it was gone.
Oh, your phone's right
Wasn't
there.
completely gone.
Sorry.
It was on that desk, so I was like, whose phone? Just,
Okay. All phones in order.
I guess I would invite you to read this when you're really looking for phone to sleep. And then just kind of blast up any comments or questions that you have. But Kim and Jason have really worked it hard, so.
Well, that's great.
do we know that health insurance is going up or we're,
It's actually only, the guaranteed maximum is only going up 3.7, which is quite a bit lower. The last few years, it's been
Okay.
around 7%, but that's
Okay.
guaranteed maximum.
okay.
So
We
when we
budget that.
Yep, we
Yep.
guarantee it, we budget for the guarantee, but they're saying it will probably be slightly lower.
Less.
Oh, okay.
usually.
That's
Yeah,
good.
which is usually the case.
Yep,
Awesome.
some of our other insurance actually went down.
Yeah, I
The only one
noticed.
that went up slightly was property liability, and they said that was due to some weather events that have happened across the country.
Yep.
But workers' comp and the unemployment have actually gone down because there hasn't been any claims, and the
Right.
difference in the people we had working the payroll has changed some, so those influence those numbers. But so they actually went down.
Yeah, the only big deal that's really majorly different up is electricity, which makes sense.
What's
Unfortunately.
what's the percentage there? That was kind of leading to my question of,
Is that 4%? It went from 50 to 70.
Well, that's Jason's good estimating. I mean, electricity
Right,
is one of those
Yeah,
things.
rates are
Rates went up about
crazy.
30 to 40%.
Right,
Yeah.
so you put in 40, you put in
Yeah,
40?
40.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's the budget.
So electricity,
yeah. mine's right here.
propane somewhat,
Yeah.
unleaded gas, those
Yeah,
items.
yeah.
We did have to boost some.
And I see the treatment chemicals are
Chemicals.
like,
Yeah.
oh, through
That's
the
the
roof.
biggest one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
so,
Yeah, that went up 110%.
right, so, yeah,
From
so
50
on
to
the,
105.
yeah, so as a percentage of the budget,
it's,
I mean, it's still not,
it's negligible, really. It's
yeah, I
very
mean, it's not
small.
great. I mean, I guess just speaking to that uncomfortable topic of, rates and potential increases, I mean, the real impact we are seeing for the public record here is the cost of construction and capital costs.
Right.
So, operating budget, we're going to be hit a little bit, but it's not overwhelming. But, as we're seeing now from our latest break by Fox Park, a small break for $100,000, I mean, that's big money for us. So
Right.
I just wanted to voice that, what I'm thinking about when we're really thinking about everything here
Mhm.
and the big picture of where we want to put rates at.
Yeah, well, I think the budget,
Any thoughts there?
I think the budget right there is well within reason
Yeah,
based on the percentage of increase in it.
yeah,
It's very minimal compared to what the inflation rate is.
right.
Yeah.
So I think we've done
Yeah.
pretty well on that.
Yeah, we're lucky.
I think they've done an excellent job and should be lauded for their work. They did a good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything crazy out of order
Yeah,
on
well-
on any of them,
Yep.
either water or sewer.
Yep.
Yeah, one other thing to highlight is the residuals removal service line. So that is our dewatered solids, just recycling. Our contract will be ending next June on that.
And we already know that's going to be
Right, our
a
current
potential.
proposal from our vendor has indicated about a 20 to 30% increase on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a big one.
So you only jumped it 18%, so does it need to go up higher?
Nope, we had enough in the budget from last year compared to what we
We were a
actually
bit over
did.
budget
Okay,
for last
okay.
year, so we adjusted.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still the wild card there of what that could
Right.
go much higher depending on what regulations
Do
get thrown
next
in.
year, yeah.
Yeah, right, so it's the unknown of that. Yeah, no, generally I mean, compared to other years, we're well prepared here going into budget planning. This is wonderful. And once again, I really appreciate the notes on the line items. I think that's helpful for all of us. Anything else here on the budget?
We probably wanted to talk to you a bit about the wage scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So in looking at the wages, and looking back to when the step wages were implemented back in
Yes.
2015, what's happened is, at first they were started out as $1.50 each step,
Yes.
but COLA has been added over the years. And so you can see from the top one, the yellow, that that's what the current wages have moved up to. And back in 2015, there was, good reason to do some steps and move some folks up.
Yes.
If we were to do step wages, which all employees are due for a step wage this year, as well as COLA, which is presently somewhere around 8.2, but we don't have.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't have the November one, but we expect it's going to be pretty close, if not higher. You can see that if you look at, say, pick the top on the lead water, and you see like I put that person in, they would be at step 8, and they would move from this year's wage of about 33 to almost 38. If we were to continue the steps and COLA.
Right,
So what Jason and I have discussed and are proposing is that we cap steps. We think that we've moved wages up into levels that are pretty competitive with other entities of our type.
mm-hmm,
And so we're proposing that we leave the steps where people are, they stay at the current step, but receive COLA.
right,
And we could always in the future relook at steps if we think that we're getting out of whack with things, but I think right now, we're in line with.
right.
So we just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that.
Well, we certainly want to be competitive wage-wise.
I think we
Especially-
still are, I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the color coding,
Yeah.
you can see that it's pretty significant
Yep.
raises for people.
Mhm.
$2 and $3 an hour
Right.
raises are
Unheard of.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that if we're hearing from the two people who are in the trenches, so to speak, that getting rid of the steps is okay, then I would agree with them.
Mhm.
They know, we just say yes. Nobody griping, grumping, have you asked people, or,
We haven't brought it to them
So this
at
is
point.
just-
Yep.
But I think if you're looking at sticking to the 8% wage adjustment,
yeah,
that's a pretty
that's a
significant
significant
COLA.
chunk.
So I don't see griping at something like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, yeah, not everybody in the
Right.
job market is getting,
Yeah,
An 8%,
exactly,
right.
8%.
yeah.
So should we should we vote, should we do a motion to
Oh, I would
cap?
think so. I think we make a motion to cap the steps, increases where they are now and continue with COLA.
I'd second
All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
that. Aye.
Yeah, I think we need to be, this, this adds to the list of things for annual review.
Correct,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's what we.
Yeah.
We don't know where we're gonna be
Right.
a year
Right.
from now.
Right,
Um,
10 years ago when we implemented this, it was
It
different.
made sense,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember that when we tackled that we were concerned then about wages, and there was definitely good reason to implement it then. Well, until this time next year.
Yep, that's what we thought, we'd
Yeah.
look at it annually,
Yeah.
the COLA's gonna do different things, who knows
Right.
what next year brings.
Right. Anything else in the Department of New Business? On to old business.
Ew.
We- Whether we want to or not, here we are. Wastewater ARPA loan agreements for discussion. We could spend a few minutes on this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have in front of you, fresh off the press, it's dated 11/9, workshop budget funding discussion. We're gonna work from that. It's
Yes.
4 pages.
Yep,
We're gonna start at 30,000 feet.
I like it.
So, kind of create a perspective. We currently have an approximate cash position of about 4.5 million, a little higher yesterday, but in that zone, and it's growing. You'll notice every week you get an update, and it's growing.
Yes.
Not quickly, but it's growing.
Better than it going the other way.
Yes. Right.
Taking the budget, the approximate quarterly cash needs are about 750,000, which translates into 3 million a year. Our average quarterly increase in debt service, if we fund everything here, without considering the shortfalls, so just the repayment schedule that was anticipated, if we increase the debt service by the total amount reflected, without considering how we handle shortfall, the quarterly debt increase would be about 206,000. So, fully loaded quarterly cash needs will be about 956,000. So up from 750 to 956. So
Right,
almost-
so we're moving from we would potentially move from a $3 million to a $4 million operating budget.
Yep. And so our average quarterly billings, looking at the last 3 years, without septage, is 820,000 a quarter, which comfortably covers our 750 need. 970 if we include septage, and I budgeted, I threw septage in at 450.
Just for clarification, that's septage receiving.
Yeah,
Yes.
septage, yeah.
Yep.
And so, essentially, without considering septage, we don't cover our nut.
Right,
With it, we barely cover it.
right.
And I think it's important for us to keep that in context, is that a significant piece of the borrowing would be, if we don't do it, would be capital reserves that we're trying to stash away each quarter or on an annual basis. When you adjusted the rates in 2019, you looked to raise money to go into capital reserves in anticipation of fixing things.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my thinking after trying to analyze this is that if we borrow the money now, we're probably not gonna get lower interest rates. And we still need to be concerned about reserves, but we didn't anticipate kind of the pennies from COVID associated with the ARPA money. So there is a balance. And so,
Yeah, we also didn't anticipate inflation, which is,
I
which
get it.
impacts, even though it may not impact our operating budget, boy, it's hitting hard on the construction side,
Yep.
so.
Right.
And then, it's kind of, again, big picture, we've got unencumbered capital reserve funds in the vicinity of $2 million, 1.9. 879 is water, 1.73 is, that can't be 1.73, it must be 1.37. But in any event, we're looking at 1.9, almost $2 million in capital reserve funds. So as we're talking through this, there's no question there's got to be a rate increase. However, there's a fair number of uncertainties still in this, and will continue to be. But one of the things we can be thinking about is that a full debt load of that 206,000 a quarter won't hit at one time.
Oh,
It will be spread out over between now and 2006, 2007. During that period of time, our reserves will continue to grow. They won't grow as quickly because we'll be picking up interest payments as we go, but they'll continue to grow. And there's also the uncertainty of what's gonna happen with septage. Are we gonna wind up, is PFAS gonna become an issue? How big an issue? And those problems. So there's these kind of counterbalancing uncertainties. But what it kind of leads me to believe that we can implement kind of incremental, steady increases in the rate that we talked about when we were doing the rate modeling 2.5 years ago, pre-COVID, that, we would have a steady, smaller increase over a period of time, trying to balance reserves, anticipating growth in operating expenses. And so whether we accept some of these grants or all of these grants, we've been working hard trying to sort out, is there more of a right direction
yeah,
than not? Because there's really no right answer.
right, because, right, we need,
And, as recently as last Thursday, we learned that our budget and you'll see that's reflected in here, our budget versus what was bid we're short.
yep,
The town's is
Crazy.
far shorter
Right,
And so my understanding at the moment is that they're meeting tomorrow morning, the engineer and the new town manager and the finance director, to discuss what are our options.
So, I don't know.
Scott Whedon.
Scott Whedon.
oh, okay.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Based upon what I understand from an email received from their engineer this afternoon, they're probably going to rebid. I'm not sure that that accomplishes anything. However, what it does do is complicate our lives.
Right,
So we've been trying to sort out, what do we do? So,
no clearer today than it was several months ago, maybe slightly.
yeah, well, I mean, one option that we've kicked around, let's start with this USDA projects.
Yes,
Main Street Water Phase One. We had a package, with rural development, it's 100% loan. 1.485 million in a loan. And with a local match, which you've already committed, which is already, I believe, I haven't talked to the auditor, I haven't sorted it out, but I believe the money's already been taken out of the budget and put into
Wherever it's gotta be.
reserved or paid out already. But in any event, it's a 30-year note, 2.62% interest, translates into $71,520 a year in debt service. The issue, however, is that we have a bid of 1.771, plus engineering services and design have come into play, plus construction administration, legal and administration. So our estimate is that when we finish, or if we proceed with the Main Street project, we're going to be at a full loaded project cost of 2.37 million, which leaves a shortfall of almost $500,000 that we've got to have to find someplace.
Right,
We
right.
either borrow it, we take it out of reserves, or
right.
whatever.
And that's
However,
assuming that everything goes according to our best
Yes,
laid
yes,
plans,
indeed.
and we don't.
Murphy is alive and well, isn't she?
She's doing fine.
Our mascot, yes.
So, before we move on from that, one of the things that we talked about yesterday is either it is delaying Main Street.
No.
Well, let me finish. Because if we proceed with Main Street today, we're going to be tearing it up. And then the town is going to be coming in once it solves its problem and tearing it up again.
Oh, well, there's,
Can't do that.
yep,
And so
No.
my thinking is, since it's 100% loan,
Right.
our risk is, we go back to rural development. This is the oldest of the commitments. Go back to them, explain the situation,
And beg
bend the
for,
knee and say, look, please extend the commitment.
right.
Worst that happens is they say no,
and then we have to reapply.
and then, well, either we reapply or we borrow the money elsewhere, we go to the bond bank
Yeah.
when we're ready to move.
Right.
So what are we risking? We're
Well, higher interest rate, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say, we're at 2.62.
Which is, and it's a
In
very
this day and
attractive,
age,
yeah, right.
sheesh,
It's
it's
still
fantastic.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what you're balancing against is, do we go ahead with Main Street now, and then 2 years from now, when the town gets squared away, get it torn up again?
We've got to coordinate on those.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just cannot
I
stand,
You know,
look anybody in the eye and say
It's
that.
hard to, it's, you
Yeah,
know,
we-
and
we'll
again,
get
we can't predict.
clobbered, you know.
I mean, I emailed Scott and asked him before they made their final decision if I could sit down and talk with them, but they haven't made their final decision yet. I can't fathom that the town will walk away from the $3 million grant. I mean, it wouldn't make sense. But there's a bunch of issues involved in that. Timing-wise, EDA has not been particularly flexible, or doesn't appear to have. I haven't had any direct dealings with them since the application was submitted. But the feedback is that they're pretty rigid in terms of, you're gonna do it our way, this is your timetable, this is the time schedule, the money has to be spent by this period of time, end of story. I don't know how that plays out. But my.
Phone calls to Concord.
Yeah, well, it's, I don't, again, part of it is sitting down and having an honest conversation with them about what does it mean. But my sense is the risk of increased interest versus the slings and arrows.
Yeah,
and-
I think we
and
suffer with
the potential
increased.
impacts on the business community.
Yep.
Just doesn't make sense. Beyond that, there's a shortfall of $500,000.
Right.
That can grow. The longer we delay, it
Right,
can grow.
right.
The flip side, however, is it could also shrink.
Yes.
Right,
Because there's a lot of these projects that are in the pipeline now that are causing higher bids.
Mhm.
And the supply chain issues may go away.
yep,
So I'm not looking for a decision immediately, but I want to kind of plant the seed that one possibility that we should consider entertaining is delaying Main Street so that we do it concurrent with the town. That might mean going to the town and going to EDA and say, look, we'll borrow the money, give it to the town to do our water and sewer line as part of their project, so you do a single project. One of the things we observed when the bids were open and we compared them is there's over $1 million worth of traffic control that the contractor has in between the two bids.
$1 million?
Yeah,
We could
yeah, there is.
buy every automobile in the town for that.
What the heck? $1 million?
I couldn't believe it
It's
when I
actually more
heard it.
than that, it's like $1.3 million.
Yeah,
However, it's what the bid is.
I get
And
it, but
and so there's things that have to be
somebody
worked
was
out.
insane.
give me a sign.
And
I'll
we have
stand
to-
out
we
there.
An
have
orange
to have
vest.
a Conversation. Up to this point, EDA has said no. We cannot combine the projects, but we did not introduce the notion of the district essentially funding
Doing the whole thing.
water and sewer as part of their project
Mhm.
and introducing additional capital to them. It's
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Complicated,
yeah.
but it makes
complicated,
sense.
And it may require an act of Congress for all I know. But the point is, that is an option that could conceivably reduce, probably not all of the overage, but their overage and our overage might
Shrink.
shrink to some extent. So that's a possibility. And from my perspective, if we delay Main Street, it buys us the time to negotiate with the town. Because the pressure is Main Street, for us and for them, right?
Right.
We don't want to be doing our work today and having them follow up 2 years from now. So I'd like to at least entertain delaying Main Street.
Well, I think in the,
It makes great
in
points,
the,
right?
in the mile high view there, we can do a little, at the risk of sounding kind of technical, or sensitivity analysis on this, and like say, all right, well, what if the rate went up, what if we were gonna be paying a 5 or 6% rate?
Yep.
All right, so our payment goes from 70 to 90 maybe,
Yep.
or 100, and then factor that in with the other decisions we have to make, and say,
Right.
okay, can we, if one path breaks, then can we still pursue the other, this other path?
So, part of our challenge is we've got other decisions and commitments that we have to make sooner than later, so just keep that one on the shelf. It allows us to avoid dealing with where do we find $500,000 almost immediately.
Question, when do we have to award the contract?
Shortly, but it can be reduced because Main Street was independent of.
They segregated
It's a
the
separate-
three projects. so
separate
phase
process.
one,
Separate
phase
bid
two,
tabulation.
phase two,
Yeah.
so
So-
Yeah, well, I know that, but I'm just thinking that
change order.
at
out
some
part.
point, the contractor's gonna say,
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's what, 30 days? gotta be awarded within 30 days.
Okay,
So the clock is ticking.
okay, that answers my question, thank you.
Yeah.
And so that's that piece. Now we go to Main Street Water Phase 2.
Yep.
That's 4.672 million total package. 2.1 grant, 22,000 local match or local contribution, and 2.5 loan at 3.1%, 30 years, an annual P&I payment of 130,500. And again, walking through this, the bid from the contractor is 3.426. The funding agencies require us to have a contingency, 5%, minimum 5% contingency, which is 1.7 or 171,000.
And we know better.
We
We know
have-
it needs to be
an
larger than that.
We have an engineering, construction inspection estimate of 490,000. We've already paid 340-ish for for Foster Street generator. But we're in the process of paying, but I think we probably paid for most of the engineering design, of 450 that would come out. And then there's kind of administration and legal and interest on interim borrowing, which this isn't precise. It's the best we can do at the moment in terms of getting that number. So we wind up with a total estimate for the project of 4.938 with available funding of 4.6. So we're looking at a shortfall of $250,000, 2.6. And that we're gonna have to find. And so my suggestion for that is to potentially to look at rejiggering capital reserve, but I don't think it's that important. There's a couple of steps. We have money in capital reserve for, I have to find that sheet. Two more pieces of paper.
Yeah, it's the sewer line relocate, replace, and
No,
repair.
this is water.
Oh,
So
that's water,
we've got
sorry.
water, we've got water construction and reconstruction, we've got 51,000 unencumbered there. But we have 4.5 million in cash on hand. And so you'll recall,
Right,
we
can,
talked to our attorney, and you are empowered as commissioners to create or to inflate, to add to capital reserves. So the suggestion would be that we add to that or we create another one. But the point is, it would come out of that 4.5 million in cash, because we need operating capital. We can't just, that 4.5 million.
now can
half
we
of
do
which is
water
spoken
phase
for.
2 if we don't do
What?
water phase 1?
Yes. Yeah.
What exactly is phase 2?
Phase 2 is from the circle.
This way.
Yeah, Highland all the way to Toby Road,
The common.
and then cutting over on Old North Main Street from here under the river to Foster Street.
Okay. So it doesn't get into downtown at
No,
all?
Downtown is phase 1,
Okay,
Yep.
all right. So we're just talking about delaying phase 1,
yes.
Right.
and we could do phase
This
2?
we would, yeah, this is,
Yep,
we
that's-
could go ahead with that.
Yep,
There's no overlap in phase
Okay.
2, yeah.
So,
thank you.
if we do that, we're essentially looking at, did I get it backwards? No, I got it, it's pretty good. So, we would be looking at essentially authorizing us to execute the contract with Grenice for the bid of 3.426190, with the understanding that we'll need to raise an additional 2.6, or 266,499-ish. Bearing in mind that it's a contingency of 171,000, we don't know what we're gonna hit. And so, you know, contingency is intended to cover, but that's a minimum.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, no,
tiny amount.
I will remind this room that
That's
we had a
tiny amount.
discussion in the midst of this project, talking about contingency as a percentage, and we were saying that maybe we should be at 15 to 20% contingency and not 5%.
No.
I realize
agree.
those are big numbers, but maybe we really should be talking about realistic numbers and not the bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be at least 350K.
Yeah, you know, it's too easy to,
Well, again, factor that into your thinking,
yeah,
is that, you know, and we may in fact want to do that. One of the possibilities that I haven't had a chance to clear this yet with the attorneys, so it's a thought, it's not a proposal. But one of the thoughts is to take of the reserves that we have, the 4.5 million cash that we have on hand, to take 2 million of that, put it into a capital reserve for unanticipated construction-related issues and/or future construction or emergency repairs. So create a pool that we've got, that we can dip into if we go ahead with these.
right,
Mhm. It's
So,
an interesting idea.
yep,
but I have to talk it through with her to make sure, to think it's okay,
right.
based upon our earlier
Yeah,
conversation.
that seems,
But
it seems
but
wise.
you know, the reason I kicked off with that available cash is again, I haven't gotten confirmation from the auditors, but my sense is that somewhere between 750 and $1 million needs to just be maintained for operating capital. We need 750 a quarter, but we're billing, and our collections are very, you know, I mean, we don't have delinquencies of consequence.
That was before the expense of oil and
No, I
everything
know.
else hit, so I
Yeah.
mean, that's a wild
Yeah.
card too.
Yeah.
But it gets billed,
Yep.
and, I mean, there are no simple answers, but the fact of the matter is that receivables are bankable.
Yes.
Right.
They're secured. And
Right.
so if we, you know, I mean, if we wind up in a recession and the world as we know it changes dramatically, as long as we're selling the water and selling the sewer treatment within reason, we can create cash flow. You know, we want to borrow, because then you have to add the cost of
Right.
borrowing and
Right.
all of that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I believe we need to keep at least $1 million cash on hand purely as operating capital, just to fund.
Yeah, that's a minimum. Yeah, I think before we go too much further, you know, we need to, and maybe this can't happen tonight, is to get a sense for what we all feel comfortable about as far as this debt service number, or
Well, I really
our
wish we
total.
had a new rate schedule.
Right, you know,
Well, you have it, it's here, I mean, we'll get to it.
yeah, I mean, I just,
It's the total, if you want to flash back, go to the last page, and it will tell you.
No, I'm talking about the rates that we're billing people.
Oh.
yeah, right, so
Yeah.
that's all I,
You know, if we had that nailed down, we could be, you know, looking at how revenue is coming in and how that's changing, but we don't have that.
Yeah, but you have that under your control. That's about the only thing we do control in all of this.
Right.
Is you can make that determination. You know, you can say, okay, it's gonna go up 2%.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the
But I-
modeling issue that's
Right.
the challenge. And
Right.
we're waiting for a scope from
From the-
Repellis
yeah,
to work on that.
Mhm.
But this is full of uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
Uncertainties. And the certainty, there is certainty in that if you did nothing, but say, we're gonna increase the current rate by 2% or 3%.
Well, X
We've
percent,
got-
yeah.
Right,
we've got a
whatever.
number,
Yeah,
you know, and so when we go back to that 30,000-foot overview, we can cover our, you know, if we increased, right now we're collecting an average of 820 a month. So if we increase that by 2%, 3%, we'll cover the debt service without any difficulty. And so we, in fact, as long as we don't get tagged and the septage, the amount of septage waste we can take gets reduced, or ARPA, or PFAS
yes.
doesn't crocus, we're actually okay just as we are now. I mean, we've got breathing room, including the fact that this is not gonna hit full, you know, the full burden isn't gonna hit for at least 2, probably 3 years. So it's, you know, I understand where your head is in terms of how much can we afford, but if you go to that last page, we've got almost a 1-to-1 ratio of grant dollars to borrowed dollars. And I have no crystal ball, but I could tell you, when I started my career 1,000,000 years ago, that's the last time that there was infusion of this magnitude. I mean, when wastewater plants were being built with 5% local dollars, 20% state, and 65 or 75% feds. I don't know that we'll ever see this amount of money in the next generation, at least. And so we need, if we're not gonna take it, we need to be, you know, it's a tough proposition to walk away from 50 cents on every dollar that we're investing.
I know, that's crazy.
Right.
It's
You know,
like,
Considering
yeah.
the fact that these are all prioritized projects. And they're further complicated by, and again, I'm waiting to have a conversation with the town. If the town goes ahead with Highland, it's I think it's 80-20. I think they're getting 80 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
With 20 cents from the 10-year plan, I think. I don't know what that ratio is. But that's gotta be done by 2026, 2026. And, you know, it's the reverse of where we were when we were talking about doing Main Street, but equally irresponsible for us not to do.
Right, to
Right.
piggyback onto that because of the
And
savings
to get that.
involved.
And
Yeah.
so
Right.
there's all of these relative uncertainties. Once we know, is the town gonna go ahead with that? Because they've gotta borrow money to do that. And I don't know whether they've created the capital reserve for that or not yet, but where that's gonna go. And I know that they bonded some money, and they committed some of that bond money to Main Street, but it's not enough. They're about $1.4 million short, is that what they did?
I think so.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
1,400,000 on the present.
So, you know, and we have to make these decisions. So it's, you know, the best I can give you is this, and say, in terms of, without knowing what the town is gonna do, we're not proposing decisions tonight as much as getting you thinking about what are our options. We'll know more after we talk to the town, but.
Yeah, but we have to make a decision if we're going to accept the contract.
Right.
So-
The construction contract for USDA, I guess our feeling internally is, we really don't have a choice. We gotta go with the US Rural Development. We have the option of not doing Main Street Phase 1. Other than that, how can we possibly not do these other ones?
Right.
And then Holderness Well, I mean, that's number one, we haven't gotten
Yeah.
to that discussion yet.
Yeah.
Right.
But
The
those
pump
two
station
are
is
the
part
most
of
important.
Right.
Phase two
Priority.
already.
Well, that's
We've started
another
that
concern
ball
about
rolling.
what happens with magnesium.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can,
Yeah, we can't
I think we
control
wanna put
everything,
ourselves in a
or,
position to be able to make the decision, an informative decision, and be able to be flexible to accommodate, you know, work alongside the town. So I think that's kind of where we wanna
right,
put ourselves.
right,
Yes.
I agree.
yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Well, I mean, I think my hunch is, without doing too much work on my calculator here, is that with some increase to our rates, it's going to help immensely
Right,
with,
right.
with the debt service.
Put us in a better position no matter what we do.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and
That's the
I
bottom
mean,
line.
I think it's, given the inflation of this year, it's not unrealistic for us to be raising rates a bit.
We haven't
And
done
if-
any in 3 years.
Yeah.
I think it's time. with,
Right,
you know,
and we
current
had said that we
circumstances.
weren't going to do that. We had said that we were going to try and raise it incrementally every year.
Right.
But because of COVID and everything, we took a break from that, but unfortunately, we're back in the real world again, and
Yeah.
we've gotta start thinking,
Right now, it seems reasonable to do a small increase
A
to
small
the
increase,
system that we
right.
have. But we're also looking at that new right structure as well as upgrading that software, which would be the right time to do both in conjunction.
right,
So it does seem like right now would be the time to do it to the current rates.
Yeah, no, I
Something,
think,
that just has to be
Yeah.
decided what.
right.
yeah,
No, I agree with all of that.
Mhm.
I think you're right on target. We need to find out how much we would feel comfortable with in reserve so that we don't put ourselves in a position where we have a problem down the road.
well, where a regulatory
said.
change, like,
Right.
is going to absolutely be catastrophic.
Right.
Burden on.
And I
Right.
think that, you know, I think the state knows that, but doesn't know how to deal with it. I mean, I think they've heard from everybody that both PFAS and the manganese thing is going to be catastrophic, and they're,
Different head now.
Uh-huh.
But they're taking the
Yeah,
different head.
yeah.
Right.
So, I'm not sure we can hedge every one of the risk exposures, but I guess if we do nothing more tonight, then, one, give us the authorization. I mean, we can wait till the next meeting if you want, but
the next meeting's before Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really, you know, we need to hit that 30-day window.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
and my point of view at this point is, ideally, just, you would authorize us to go ahead with Gonese on water phase 2 and on sewer phase 2.
What's the word on the, around about this construction company?
They're giving good
High marks we heard.
Yes, I'm from Wright Pierce?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they're well-known, they've got good references, and Mike is meeting with them or checking with them. They were just awarded a substantial contract in Epic,
okay,
so they're apparently known to the state of New Hampshire as well.
okay.
Okay. So we're talking water phase 2, sewer phase 1, or sewer
phase
phase
two.
2?
Sewer phase,
1,
isn't,
No,
sewer's
no.
the only phase.
right.
Okay,
Sewer is
sewer
the
phase
only-
2.
Well, it
but
says
there is
sewer
no
phase
sewer
1.
phase 1, right.
Well, it
No.
says sewer phase 1. So water phase 2, sewer on Main Street,
Right.
Highland Street, Russell and, just Russell, right?
Those, yeah, Russell is, those are all ARPA.
Okay,
Russell's tied to
if
whether
we-
the town
if we-
votes for it.
okay.
RDA, page 1 is the US RDA projects.
okay.
And so of those,
We
of the
want to go
RDA
ahead for
projects-
phase 2 and sewer.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
So, yeah, so that would be a commitment to Guernsey of 2.914726 for the sewer project. and 3.426190 for the water phase 2.
Unless,
But you need to understand that the total commitment to achieve that, because out of out of sewer phase 2 or the sewer project, we've already committed and have paid for
Pump station 1, truck station.
PS1, the engineering, and so of all of this, right, it would be, you're approving, or you've already obligated, we've already authorized the contract for PS1, it's already done, it's paid for. But at the end of the day, out of the 8.8 million awarded for sewer phase 2, we would, with this vote, or with this authorization, we would be committing everything but 173,000. So, the total commitment, some of which has already been paid out, but the total commitment would be 8.847 out of 8.8, or it'd be 8.673226 out of 8847.
right, but that's just the sewer side of it.
That's sewer.
Above is the water.
And then
The water side would be a commitment of 4938499,
Right.
and we would have to generate an additional 266,000.
So it's 14 million basically.
Yeah.
So the other question is the second one has not gone out to bid, so we don't know whether that
No,
number is
it's
real.
all been out to bid.
Oh, it has,
It's in the
okay,
bid.
all right.
Package.
Yeah, the only thing we haven't gone out to bid yet on is the force main phase, next phase of the force main.
Which is in yellow.
And that's the one that's highlighted,
Yep.
and that's, the construction estimate of that is 1.6.
But that's not part of Grenice's
No.
bid.
No, but that's part of,
But it's
that's part of the 8.8.
Okay. So we have to do a separate bid for that?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay,
They're working on the design, and we're working on
The
the
shoreline
easements.
permit and easement, so that,
I'm just blown away by the traffic control component. I mean, that's just,
I'm just baffled.
I mean, we could, like, hello town, this is how to
I
save
was gonna
millions
say,
of
I'll
dollars.
hire a bunch of people in town, and we'll take care of that ourselves.
No, you can't, that's
No.
the problem.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was to go to the town and say, look, let's contract with the police department, let them hire guys on OT, it's gotta be cheaper.
It's gotta be
To
cheaper.
bring them in. The problem is, it's part of the bid package.
Right.
And we can't arbitrarily remove it, or we invalidate the bid.
Yeah,
But, all right, so we're paying traffic control by the hour? Like, we're
No,
gonna
Lump
get,
sum.
Lump sum, that's what it's gonna cost you, regardless.
that's insane. That is insane.
That's the government.
That's their contingency fund for their over expenses.
I can't,
I just can't even fathom 1.3 million for traffic.
well, it's total between the town and us. So it's
Still.
not- it's-
Still,
Yeah.
if they're
I get
working
it.
in the same
I get
spot.
it. Your only option is
No
to,
option.
just to not award the bid until we
yeah,
bid.
yeah.
And
I
I'm
know,
not 100% sure we wanna do
it's-
that.
Yeah, right.
Because it may just go up,
Yeah, it'll just
as
keep
we
going.
saw, because
It
Park,
went up from the last.
this was the only one that,
It went up
Right,
since
we
we
didn't
started
get
this
Park.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, went up
Ay, ay, ay.
600,000 between over Parks bid, and they're the one that screwed it up. So in any event, that would be, that's an action we have to take, or not. I mean, you could say, no, we're not gonna award the bid, or by default, if we miss the 30-day window. I'd like to get it awarded and get on with it.
yeah.
So that's that one. And then,
Well, do we need motions? Do we want to make a decision on this tonight? I mean, it seems
Well,
kind of
don't we wanna
silly.
know what the town's gonna do first?
What are we gonna know?
Well, we don't have to, we can award the
Phase two.
phase two
Right.
sewer.
Okay,
Without, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'll know that we're gonna go ahead with those things.
okay. Yes, if that's what you wanna do.
I mean, what do you-
I guess what I'd ask is a motion to authorize us to proceed with the award for water phase two and sewer, unless we discover in conversation with the town a reason to return back for further discussion.
I make that
Okay.
motion.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, so,
Let's vote on that motion.
subject to the
I-
engineer's recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I,
Kim's scrolling rapidly.
Cam's
here.
scrolling, she's
All right,
got
aye.
it.
So-
Let's-
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
yeah.
Yeah. Right, so, subject to changing conditions and
By the
engineering, yes.
So let's jump now to the one that's headed Holderness Well site
Oh, we're skipping the ARPA stuff in the middle?
for the moment, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
All of that has been knocked into a.
All right, so
Okay.
Because of
put our
that.
Holderness Well hats on.
Okay. Our view is that there is no choice. We're already into this.
Yeah.
For a lot of money, A and B, it's water supply. So,
And we've been told we have to do it.
Right.
I
other than
mean-
that,
Other than that, it's a
Other
free
than that,
country.
Yeah, what the heck?
so, by the time we're done, and again, this becomes confusing because there's been new grant and loan information introduced in the last 2 weeks. So, as of last week, the current from Wright Pierce, the current project estimate is almost 6 million, 5.9 million. We've got a drinking water revolving loan fund loan of 1.6, 2.74%, 20 years, 15% principal forgiveness. So of the 1.65, 247,500 is forgiven. So the net borrowing will be 1.42, or 402. Translating into an annual payment, P&I payment of 90,853. We're also get a grant in an equal amount, 1.65.
Wow. That's sweet.
Then we get a revolving loan fund loan of 960,000. At, again, 2.356 for 20 years with 40% principal forgiveness, which is 384,000. So the net borrowing is 576, annual payment of 36,114. That package has to go, and the emerging contaminants has to go back to town meeting, or not town meeting.
District
annual
meeting.
District meeting. So we've got to have a warrant article that deals with this.
Yep.
Yeah.
To accept and receive, but at the end of the day, it winds up blunting that increase that we were talking about the last time we met with Chris. We were talking about somewhere between $1 million and $2 million. At the end of the day, it's less than that. So we you know. and-
Right, it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, except for the complexity of it. So we're talking about the emerging contaminants loan of 1.2 million with 100% principal forgiveness.
That's
I-
1.2 million free.
That's going back to your comment, Judy.
Right.
DES does recognize the need
Right.
for this.
Yeah.
The complication there is I've talked to them, Jason's talked to them, Ray Pierce has talked to them. This is brand new to them, so they're not quite sure how to administer it. Because, I mean, that's what my question to them is, what goes on our books is a loan. You're loaning us $1 million, but you're forgiving payment. You know, how do we show that? And so they don't know.
Well, maybe the auditors will know.
I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I asked, what's the difference between a grant and a loan with 100% principal forgiveness? They don't know. I mean, the response is, this is brand new, so we don't know how to answer that. There is a 1% charge on construction loan till the closing, but even that isn't crystal clear. So, what we know at this point is, between now, we can't do anything with that other than have you authorize us to prepare the warrant article.
Yeah,
And then we'll have to
we
sort that out.
don't have any other option.
Hopefully you'll have that information before the.
Yeah,
warrant
well,
article.
between our auditor,
Right.
Right.
the lawyer, and the bond counsel, somebody is gonna be able to help us answer the question when
Yeah.
somebody says, what do you mean you're borrowing $100 million, but you don't have to pay it back? Because that
We
was
can
our
say,
question
well,
too.
that's what they're telling us.
Yes, that's what they're telling us. No, we're getting an ARPA grant of $240,000. So at the end of the day, we're getting total loans of 2.61, total grants of 3.09, so it's more than 50 cents on the dollar. However, that's a total of 5.7 million against the revised project estimate of 5.9. So we're gonna need to find 235,000. Again, my
You
sense
can
would be.
do the capital reserve.
Yeah,
All right, so if we skip ahead here, I'm seeing an increase on the water side of about 430,000.
yep,
Principal and annual principal and interest. On the sewer side, 390,000.
yep.
So that is, let's just say that's eight, you know,
Yeah, you can call it
it's,
800.
let's just call it 800 for a round number there. That's $800,000 annual we're paying on this, correct?
Mhm.
And then we've got several hundred thousand from our South Main Street, so that's there's $1 million on our books.
Wait a minute. Everything's included.
Oh, everything's included, okay. All right, but we still
South
have,
Main Street's included, it's the RDA project.
oh, okay,
What's not included in the borrowing is the shortfall.
right, okay.
So anything in red. So you've got, when we go ahead with Main Street, it's not a question of if, of Main Street Phase 1, which is the downtown. When that project goes ahead, that's the one in conjunction with the town, there's $500,000 that, at minimum, that we know we're gonna have to find somewhere else. That water Phase 2 that we're awarding, we need to find 266,000. And Holderness Well, we need to find 235.
Right, yeah, those are one-time things,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, it could, or we could borrow,
Right, right.
$500,000, we might
Right.
go to the bond bank.
right, but, it's this 800,000,
Right.
800,000-ish in borrowing that, yeah, we gotta pull out our calculator here and say, okay, well,
Mhm. How does
I
that work?
mean, so that's adding, we've gone from a $3 million operating budget to
3.6. Or 3.8.
3.8, right, yeah. Right, so,
But again,
yeah.
we're bringing in,
Yeah, we knew it was going up almost 49.
right, right,
about 4 million, including septic. Okay, right now, our average quarterly billings is $820 without septic, and $970 with septic.
right.
So it's not dire, it's just tight. And so that, one of the challenges is gonna be getting a rate that covers that, gives us, starts to incrementalize building reserves again. Because,
Right.
essentially what this does is it puts us at covering our expenses.
Right, so, I think let me just put, since I like, at a high level, like to talk really round numbers. If we increased our rates by 10%, that would add 80,000 times 4. There's $300,000 a year that we would be adding to our budget.
Yep.
So,
Not to your budget, to your revenue.
I mean, to our revenues, yes, thank you. So, yeah, that, that starts to sound like a new structure for, with a $4 million operating budget, we actually have a little bit of, we're actually putting money away there. Not a big, not as much as
Right.
we have had, but at least it's,
But you've got, again, let's not look, I mean, we may spend some of it, but we've got 4.5 million in cash. Let's take $1 million away for operating capital.
right,
So, again, we don't wanna be stupid, so we take maybe $1 million of that and put it in safe reserves,
right,
and that still leaves us 2 million. And I'm not advocating we spend the 2 million as much as allocate it so that we have into capital reserves, because we've got 2 million in capital reserves as well. So, the picture isn't dire.
No, it isn't, but I mean,
Challenging.
since as a government agency, we can't invest our money, we don't make any
Right.
interest on
That's
it.
right.
So we're at an enormous disadvantage, especially in an inflationary time, because
Yeah.
we can't do anything to invest that money to keep up with
coming,
inflation.
right.
Yep.
So, for every dollar we bring in, I mean, that dollar diminishes in value.
But the corresponding argument, however, is that we borrow at a fairly discounted rate because it's tax-exempt bonds.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
So
so,
the interest is,
yeah, but we're still paying.
You still
You won't get an argument, I mean, it's an argument, it's trying to imagine what's the right thing to do for the district for the next 30 years.
Right,
Because that's the life of some of those
Yeah.
bonds.
right, 'cause,
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
we're
the-
facing what so many other
Yeah, I was gonna
municipalities
say,
across this
The United
country.
States
yeah.
is having
Right.
this issue everywhere.
I mean, we should be thankful, I think, that we see some light at the end of the tunnel as a way to get out. I mean, it's not like we're $1 billion
Yeah.
under like some other large cities in this
Yeah,
country.
and
Yeah.
we're not just skirting by.
Mississippi.
Yeah,
We've
exactly,
got,
yeah.
even if all we did was accept the rural development package and the Holderness Well package, which are important,
Yes,
we're covering our debt service. And even with all of it, I mean, to me, the kind of the most stressful decision is the one when you look at the end result. If we do it all, we're doing it, half of the work we're doing is with somebody else's money.
right. But
Yeah.
also,
great.
we're also mindful of the next line of projects which still exist out there, which are not
Right.
on our priority
But
list.
the
We've
ARPA
got,
project, first 4 of those.
yes.
Right.
But
But-
no, I'm just thinking longer term,
Yeah,
like 20
no, no.
years.
Oh,
We've got a storage tank we've got to replace at
Yep.
some point. We have other,
Right.
until we get,
But again, we can't keep just applying Band-Aids. If we keep applying Band-Aids, we lose money because we're
Yeah.
gonna be losing all of this free money.
right,
I unfortunately don't wanna pay for it, but I think we have no choice. You
yeah, I know,
We've been trying, and Jason and crew have been fantabulous in fixing and Band-Aiding and stuff like that, but there's gonna come a point where, no matter how many sleeves we put on things, they're gonna not
Some
hold
of them are
anymore.
revisited.
Right, I mean, that's
Right.
the whole,
Right, that's Highland Street too, going,
the whole goal with all of this work is to
Right.
reduce our risk overall as
Right.
an organization.
right.
right.
So, again, all I'm looking for tonight is kind of your concurrence that we're gonna go ahead and prepare the warrant article for
The well?
the
Oh,
well.
of course, we have no
And, you'll
choice.
have to
That's
approve it at the
another
end.
one that we don't have a choice.
Right.
We are so invested in it, number one. If we don't go ahead with the warrant article, that's just stupid on our part. But besides that, we've already put so much money toward it. And the state is telling us we have to do it. So if we don't then we're gonna get yelled at back from the,
It's
you
a
know, it's just,
no-brainer.
it's like, you know,
Right.
we're on the lovely little hamster wheel and we just gotta keep pedaling away.
Well, I mean, I very much appreciate this document.
Oh, yeah,
that you
it's
put
super
together.
helpful.
And it does give me some hope that there is a path forward here. I mean, I was feeling a little bit pessimistic coming into this, that there really was gonna be a fiscally responsible path forward, but, you know, I'm starting to see.
I wish they could all be
And
like
it-
Emerson Street,
I
shortfall
don't
of
need to take up
$200.
much more time for you guys.
That'll be the one that hangs
Let's
above.
just hit on the ARPA ones. Article 2.
Oh, wait, do you need a motion for the well site?
No, I just
Yeah,
need
he's
your
gonna do
concurrence.
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna, you'll approve the warrant article? I just
right,
Okay.
get that.
yeah.
All right. So we're back to Highland?
Yeah, so now we go to Highland, 2, 3,
2, 3, 4, and 5.
yeah, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 is Highland Street. Yeah, Highland and Russell are both town dependent. We're assuming that the town is gonna go ahead and find a way to accept the EDA grant. And Russell Street is kind of the major drainage creator, and so.
Right, this is the sewer separation.
It's not sewers, it's not. sewers.
Water
Stormwater.
separation,
Stormwater.
stormwater, that's what I
Water.
meant.
And sewer.
Not sewer,
And
stormwater.
so that, they're gonna be rebuilding, assuming they don't modify their plans, but they're gonna be rebuilding Russell Street. So we've gotten a ARPA grant for, it's 212. And we had a conversation several months ago where you
We voted to,
280 and 320
yep.
from reserves. And so that's still there. That would come out of there. There is money in capital reserve for sewer.
Mhm.
Sewer line replacement could come out of there. That there's 455.
Yep.
So we could easily cover the 320. And
It's the water side that's
the water
tight.
side is gonna need, no, I guess I got it backwards. It's the water is 320 and the sewer is 280.
Are our budget numbers current on this? I mean, I get a little worried that, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
they're engineering estimates.
right. So,
And
well, I mean, I'm wondering, what was the budget, was the engineering estimate done this year, or was it done last year?
It was done this year.
For
This
Russell
year,
Street
okay.
was, yeah.
All right, so it has some hope of being
Close.
within the state of New
Boundless.
Hampshire.
And so, I mean, the advantage we have with this is that until we know what the town is doing, we don't have to do anything, other than kind of earmark the money. But beyond that, we were looking to do this as a change order with the town's contract. At least that was our thinking at the time. And that would allow us to know, I mean, at some point, if we couldn't negotiate a contract, relatively speaking, within the dollars available, we decide
Yeah.
to punt
Mhm.
and deal with it later. But as the previous conversation, it's really not responsible to let them rebuild that road if we're gonna go in. and tear
Right,
it
go
up
in
later.
and tear it up.
So that's that one. And that's an if come. Highland Street is an if come. I mean, we need to do it. But,
Well, this is where we keep having breaks, so,
yeah, I know. We don't wanna not do it if the town is going to wind up accepting the money from the 10-year plan and reconstructing a significant chunk of it. On the other hand, we may want to do it anyway. I mean, at some point, we need to replace the water lines. The advantage to us is, you know, we go in and we replace the water sewer line and we do a trench patch. Although I'm not sure how much they wind up tearing up the whole street anyway, right?
Right, some of it's on both sides of the road.
So.
especially as we get higher up.
It's,
Right.
it's tricky, if we redo it ourselves.
If we're going all the way up to Reservoir, there's ledge. right? Isn't there ledge between,
I don't know,
Yeah, between Reservoir and Broadway.
Broadway,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
the one,
Dug
yep,
it up, yeah.
yeah,
Had
Yeah,
the
so
hard
we
time
would-
last time.
We would likely be replacing it in the same trench, so in kind.
okay, so,
Yeah,
all right,
we wouldn't be cutting a new trench.
Yeah,
through
thank
there.
God.
Yeah.
okay,
Plus they raised the level
of the,
road
yeah.
there, yeah.
Yep.
So that's largely town dependent.
Yep.
You know, and so, you know, at this point, and again, until we get input back from them, and then, you know, Emerson Street is here because we had the opportunity, I guess, right?
Yeah, and it's also town
The
dependent.
town
The
is
town is,
talking about moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one Joe came in and,
Right.
but he hadn't done anything like that, had he?
I believe they have design on it, yeah,
Oh,
but they don't have the funding.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's always they don't have the funding.
yeah.
so,
It should have been done 10,
again, that.
15 years
that's
ago.
a shortfall. of
Emerson
$200.
Oh,
Street.
everything.
Oh, Emerson's a
Yeah,
mess.
the drainage is gone, everything is shut.
And so I guess my sense would be that if the town's not gonna do that, at least we can be flexible. You know, we're getting 156.8 and 142, so, you know, we're getting 300,000 in ARPA money
Right,
against a $866,000 project, so a third.
It's just amazing how much,
Oh,
you know, free money is there for us to be able to do this.
Yeah,
Because
well-
we could never do this.
Both Reservoir and
This would be
Emerson
years in the
Sewer, DES was actually flexible with us, and they allowed us to shift ARPA from a lower priority project to both of these roads. So this is something that they've actually
Pushed,
allowed us to put more into it.
mhm.
okay. I don't, like I've been saying, unfortunately, I don't see how we can say no.
Yeah,
So you don't, again, you can say yes. I mean, our game plan has been to proceed with these
Right,
understanding, but, you know, we've got to fish or cut bait sooner than later.
yeah.
You
And
know,
what's our deadline for these projects being done? Doesn't
2026,
Yeah.
D,
2026, yeah.
all of them?
or is that the ARPA?
Is that ARPA, all of them are 2026?
These are all 2026. Rural development was last year.
Right,
Or
Right,
part of it anyway.
Yeah.
right,
So, yeah, I would say, you know, they're all in that 2026.
6,
window.
okay.
What happens if it's not, I mean, some of these, the ARPA dollars have to be spent by 2026. It doesn't mean the project has to be done, it's just that
Right.
the ARPA portion has to be expended.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a fair amount of managing all of the scheduling and the timing and the bidding.
Right.
And staying on top of the funding stream, or streams, as the case may be. But we do, so one of the decisions sooner than later is gonna be, you know, I've got a proposal from, or contract from Wright Pierce to start the design on Highland Street. It's, you know, 400,000. So, you know, I don't wanna start committing engineering dollars on all of these projects until we have, one, a high degree of certainty,
Right,
and, you know, find ourselves in a situation like we are with PS1. Is, you know, we have the obligation, and, you know, we've got, what's the shortfall? 266 and change, right?
yep,
So, no, that's a PS1.
Would be the sewer, yeah. So we're actually
Yeah,
in line with the sewer.
Yeah. Well, assuming that PS4.
Right.
And there's no contingency, so, at some point, probably more than anything else, I just need a sense of, you know, are we prepared to hold our nose and do it all? and assume that 50 cents on every dollar we're spending on construction is,
All right, one final question. Total construction value, $28 million, pulled off this last page here.
yes.
If I go back to my contingency number, let's just say that I want 10%, that's 2.8 million contingency. If I
Well,
wanted,
some of that's already done. I mean, some of it's already spent.
right, but, I mean, we're talking big numbers for contingency here.
Oh, yeah.
And my question is, all right, so things don't go well on one or more projects. We have some cost overruns, change orders, et cetera. And worst case scenario, we have to, we're incurring a bunch of extra money. Let's just say, round number, it's $1 million. What do we, do we have to pull that out of capital reserve? Can we, I guess we could borrow additional?
Yeah, we can borrow, we can
Right.
go through the bond bank.
I'm just trying to think worse, like all the things that could happen
Yeah,
here.
Right.
I mean, it's nothing that says it comes out of reserves. I mean, we could put a package together with the bond bank and, go out into the market and, borrow whatever we need to borrow. In the meantime, we're scurrying to make more applications to rural development and, see where they come down.
But RD is not gonna come in and bail us out for
No, they won't-
overages.
Well, they won't come in and bail us out necessarily, but we may be able to get them to come to the table on some of the ARPA stuff. Well, what are we doing what was the PPG? It was for Russell Street and
In Highland.
Highland, yeah.
So what, if we were to borrow money now, I mean, in the current rate environment, what is an interest rate for us looking
I'd
at?
have to go to the bond bank and see, but I'm guessing it's mid-threes.
Mid
Okay,
3.5,
so
3.75.
All right,
Yeah, so all the projects other than Main Street Phase 1 and 2 water all have contingency built into these numbers already.
okay.
So the
Well,
only projects. that
Right,
are running
my concern was that
shortfall on-
was the contingency wasn't enough. If it was only like 5%, that, we learned over here
Right,
that,
yeah.
I mean, I think we're gonna be wiser and smarter
Yeah,
with these
we-
projects. And that, we're gonna be we're gonna be like a hawk on top of how things are progressing.
On the soft side, who will? I mean, there's some things you can't control.
Right.
Unsuitable soils, we hit ledge.
Right,
We find, conditions, ground conditions that we can't fix, but we will, my expectation is we'll do a better job managing the soft costs.
right.
Yeah, a lot of these pipe projects as well, we've built in test pits into all this pricing as well, so that we can locate things before we come up with a conflict. So trying to avoid as much as possible locating pipes where they're currently unknown.
Yep, yep.
Well, I mean, right now, it's just a matter of writing up the warrant articles for the
Yeah.
ARPA stuff, right?
No,
We already did the
we
form.
got it. All we gotta do
We
is
did
sign
them
the
in
agreements.
2022.
Oh, all
Actually,
we
some
have
of
to
them
do
we
is sign the
signed.
agreement. Ew, okay. Got it.
And, we've got governor and councils approves stuff. I mean, we've got some, the master plan is $100,000. The asset management is $100,000. The cybersecurity is $100,000. And the only thing pending is I'm waiting for a high degree of assurance. The master plan, the $100,000 won't cover the full cost of the master plan, which if we were to do the whole thing, the whole sewer master plan, it would be about $350, according to Wright Pierce. And I want written assurance from DES that if we accept the $100,000, we're not obligated to finish the $350. Is that, we may want to stretch that master plan. We don't have a master plan now, and we're I don't know that we're doing okay, but we're doing better than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have to spend an additional $250, I'm happy to get the $100,000. But if they say, oh no, you have to spend the full 100 plus 250 more within the 2
Right.
years.
Right.
Mhm.
Then Jason can come back and can try to convince you that it's a good idea, but there's too many of these
Yep.
things floating around right now.
Yep.
So
Well-
the
I think we're gonna
grant
need like 6
applications are
people.
prepared
Yes,
for when you do wanna sign them.
yes,
That's what all those folders are,
yep.
if and when.
And that's for the sewer only, because
We've already done the water,
Yeah, so
previous
if,
meetings.
I mean, if you're good, that, you know, we're gonna adjust the rates and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our best to manage it, then let's go ahead and vote, sign the contracts, the applications or the
This-
agreements.
This is what,
I'm good with it.
me too.
I don't think we have
was
much
gonna
choice,
I don't
really.
either.
Yeah,
But-
well-
But when, it was annual meeting a few years ago, when we had the big meeting and we talked to everybody and said, this is coming down the pike. Is this where everybody's mindset is? And for the people that were at the meeting, the answer was yes.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I think we need to do what we said we were gonna do.
That,
So we need a motion.
we need a motion and a second to authorize the execution of those documents.
I
don't
make a
know.
motion that we authorize and execute the documents for all the ARPA grant-funded projects. Highland Street, Russell Street, Reservoir Road, Emerson Street, and
Holderness.
Holderness Well.
Remainder of the Holderness well.
Well, those aren't ARPA, but, so
Yeah.
the ARPAs are Highland,
and we
Reservoir,
don't-
and Emerson.
Not Russell?
There's nothing that
There's
pending
nothing,
authorization
Russell
on-
was the water we've
on
already
Holderness.
done.
Oh, okay,
So
so
these are just
Highland,
lists.
Reservoir, and Emerson.
And so there's documents that Chris will sign, that we did that today, and then you need to authorize Dawn as the signer on all the
Okay,
agreements.
so I authorize Chris to sign whatever he needs to
Dawn.
sign, and then authorize Dawn to take over and
So the
execute
top sheets
as
on each
needed.
one, Chris will sign and I'll notarize, and Dawn
Then
will sign
signs
an
the
initial,
rest.
yeah,
Okay,
on each of the 3 packets.
Right, 3 projects, yep.
I'd second that,
All right.
now that we get it figured out.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
November 9th. We made the decision.
The day and then.
Sign your life away, my friend.
Okay, but first, let's,
actually, I wanna.
we've got a few other things to wrap up here. Since we're like an hour and a half in, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm
Bob?
flagging for not having had dinner, but, we have to set up dates for budget hearings and an annual meeting, January, February, March, superintendent report, and then we have to approve, enter into the record and approve the purchase recs. Looks like that's the remainder of the business in front of us today.
Yep, so update on the Langdon Street Fox Park Culvert project.
Yes,
We have worked with Wright Pierce to determine the appropriate permitting for the repair of that culvert. And we've determined that a permit by notification would be our best approach at this point in time to repair that, which actually, it limits us to repairing in kind instead of doing an alternate repair to that culvert. So we've expressed our proposal to the town to repair in kind at this time, knowing that it would be a temporary repair, buy us some time to be able to plan for a more permanent replacement of that section of culvert. So the town highway manager has reviewed it and approved of that. We have put forth a PO to Wright Pierce for engineering services to complete the permitting, because they have to certify the pre and post construction for the Wetlands Bureau as part of that. So that PO is in progress. And we just today sent a PO in to secure Emmy Latulip Construction to provide an excavator operator and a dump truck operator for 2 days' work in order to set the large boulders and rocks back in their places, and we will mortar them in and backfill and compact.
okay.
Okay,
That's where
Well,
we're at.
that's a positive outcome there, but it just goes to show how tricky some of these little things, how big some of these things become.
And then also, because of all of our great work with all of these projects and funding and financing, we were the recipient of the 2022 Asset Management Award through DES. So
It's a big granite slab. Beautiful. That's really nice.
Yeah, very nice.
It's like
Must
kind
weigh
of
a
like,
ton.
like being a bank's best loan borrower.
Yeah. That's it, right? There you go. Nice.
So we're a chunk of the rock
You
here.
got a chunk of the rock.
Piece
That's
of
a
the
really nice award plaque thingy.
It's very nice.
that's all I have for you.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Jason. So, just a motion there on the, quickly to get the,
I'll make a motion, we approve the, enter into the record the purchase Rex already approved.
I'd second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that's
So now we're up to date.
set, yeah, so that leaving, budget hearing and annual meeting, do we want to attempt?
Those are probably the easy ones. You have a calendar in front of you, so voting is March 14th. So that's pretty much set, and normally we do the
We do
Thursday.
it the
of
Thursday
the
after,
annual,
so that
that's
would be the 16th.
at
Right.
6 PM.
Yeah,
So the budget hearings we need to decide on, let's see, where's January?
We may need a public hearing on bonds and notes. I'm not sure how that Wilderness Well thing is gonna, it's over $1 million, so
Right.
I don't know exactly how that, because it's a loan that we're not gonna have to pay back. I'm not sure what the lawyer's gonna say.
right.
We have to do a public hearing on it. And
7 o'clock?
somehow-
On
6
the
PM for annual meeting
6, okay,
on the 16th.
yeah.
Kim, why don't you do that? Why don't we schedule a public hearing now, put it in the calendar for a public hearing.
All right, so that's
and-
budget meetings on the 17th and the 31st.
Yep. And just for Judy's benefit, first day for candidates to file.
Yeah, might not be happening this year.
Okay.
Or next year?
Or next year.
Times on those?
Yeah,
Hearings, I think
5 o'clock, right?
yeah,
we start the meeting at 5, so I
Okay.
think we'd probably go right into the hearing.
Both of those
yep.
at 5.
Mhm.
And what do we want to do for February?
For meetings?
Yeah. And it would be the 14th, oh, Valentine's Day. And the
That's the-
28th?
I would make sure you have a meeting before, the budget and warrants must be posted by that Monday, so I would say you want to have your last meeting in February prior to that, so you may want to do like 7th and 21st.
Well, if we're meeting the 31st, you know, I guess
Or
it
you can have
depends what
one,
we
but-
need.
We just have
Just
to
the
make sure that your
21st.
budget and
Yeah.
warrant is ready for Barbara
Is
to
that
do her
due to
posting
the
before
grant?
the school closes,
Yeah.
it gets into
Yeah.
kind of,
The 21st.
so I would say the 21st would be the latest to wrap up
Yeah,
budget and warrant. And
yep.
How long will,
So Feb 21.
is that, should we be arm wrestling with Red Pierce about that price? About them paying for that?
I think we could to an extent, yeah.
That'll be a 5 PM meeting on the 21st.
Yep.
If you just give me a memo.
Do you
that I
think
can-
we need another one, or we're just gonna skip from the 31st?
Well, let's see what happens on the 31st, you know, if we feel like we need another one, we can
Yeah.
always pop it in there.
Yep.
Perfect.
Do
Okay.
have you scheduled December yet?
I think we did.
We did. They were just the normal 2nd and 4th,
Okay.
correct?
I think so. I don't think
I
we
got-
changed it.
13th and 27th?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't,
Is that
I
Melvin?
didn't jot them down. We have them
Is that
on.
Melvin?
Oh, no, that's Sadie.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Looking What month were we looking at?
December?
13th and
27th.
And you're going at 5 o'clock all the time now.
13th and
27, you're going at 5 o'clock all the time now,
Yeah.
because they were 5:30, and that's what I. Okay.
you say we decided on the 27th?
I thought we did.
Okay.
Thought we stuck with the 2nd and 4th on that month.
Yeah, and the thing was, I think, was for the 27th, was if we don't need it, we don't
I'll
need it.
That's the deal,
All right, we'll put if needed.
but I think I thought we didn't need it. I put it in my thing, no big deal.
We'll figure it out.
So I just have one thing, is that I got a notice on the letter of credit that, you know, presently it's 4 million, and they said with our current monies and so forth, they're recommending 6.5 million with the bank in Meredith Village.
Wait, what, I don't understand.
I mean,
The reserve that we have, because we have so much money in our account, to cover our accounts in case. It's a letter, we do have it every year,
Okay.
and so the bank recommended 6.5 million. It doesn't cost us. But
They have to collateralize,
Yeah.
right?
Right, they have to collateralize.
Looks like
Yeah,
that's all
they
done.
have
Yeah,
to-
right,
the-
I'm
the
just
federal
authorizing.
Right.
they-
Oh, okay, they have to
prove that
say
have
that
assets
they have
equal to
enough
the amount.
assets.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay,
yes, so I went ahead and
Said
authorized
yes.
that. I just
Yeah.
wanted you to know that I did do that.
Will they be sending us a copy of that
I will
letter
get
for
it,
the auditors?
yeah, when they do it, they just haven't done it yet because it's not quite due,
Yeah, because the
But-
auditors will want.
but I got it, you know, done so that it'll be ready when it's due.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
alrighty,
Adjourn?
I make a motion.
Adjourn at 5:42.
And it feels like.